What's up, everybody? Vin and Lou back with the Shea podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, New York Times bestseller and avid Mets fan, Billy Jensen. Bill, welcome. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, guys. I appreciate anytime I get to talk about something other than crime. I'm good. and I will say this: you guys have all your Mets. My Mets stuff is actually in front of me. So
okay,
there's there's my dad kicked your ass at Shea story. There's something that Joey Paints did for me for the Pete home run. And there's, of course, beautiful Shea right there. So that's where a lot of my Met stuff is. But it's also behind me, too. And actually, there's the Shea seats right there, too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now that you brought up Shea, one question that me and Lou like to ask guests, and we're kind of in the same boat with it. Would you prefer to watch a game at Shea Stadium or Citi Field?
Here's the way that I answer that question. For a regular season game, Citi Field. For a playoff game, Shea.
I know you agree with that, Lou,
okay,
right?
that's fair. Oh, 100%. 100%.
And the irony is that regular season games used to take 3.5 hours, and there was nothing to do with Shea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I went to watch the game maybe twice. That was the only kind of lounge or restaurant. I guess they added some more maybe towards the end there, but there really was nothing else to do. You would walk around the thing and you would say, oh, there's the Carvel. The game was just so long. Now, I think people do show up a lot earlier than they used to. Of course, that's all, with the giveaways, you get that as well. But just because there's so much cool stuff to do at the stadium.
Yeah, I think I could say for both Vin and I, we grew up going to Shea. And like you mentioned, Citi Field is absolutely amazing. We both love going to Citi Field. But I was at Game 7 of the 2006 NLCS, and when Chavez caught that ball, I've never felt the stadium like that. Shea rocked like no place anywhere. So I definitely agree with you. If I had to watch a playoff game over again, it would definitely be in Shea.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a very special place, and just the little quirks, and also it probably would change now just because the planes are different, but people don't remember, like, batters used to step out when a plane was going overhead. That's just stuff that doesn't happen anymore, but it was just, and also that center field, Willie Mays said that was the toughest center field he ever played in, as the wind would swirl there. So, and obviously it was a pitcher's ballpark. We've always been a pitcher's ballpark with this new one too, just because we've always been a pitcher-centric team. So, which is the irony for this year, by the way. So,
I just wanted to start off and take us a little bit in the past. How did you become a Mets fan? A little bit about your history of being a Mets fan, and tell us where it all started. When did you first fall in love with the orange and blue?
Yeah, so my dad took me to a few Yankee games in like 79, 80, and then people that are younger don't realize that to get over the bridge back then took a really long time. There was no easy pass. So people would give the bridge guy a $10 bill, and then they'd have to get change. And imagine that with all the people going on the bridge and only like 7 or 8 toll booths. Right. So it took a long time to get to, I grew up on East Meadow, Westbury, Long Island. And we said, we just like, all right, let's check out the Mets. So around 81, 82, we started going to the Mets, started going to Shea, and we liked it. And we started getting into the team. Obviously, in 83, they get Hernandez, and it was like, all right, they're starting to do some interesting things. And then in 84, it just took off. In 84, it was just such you knew that something was happening. Nobody was talking about the Yankees anymore. Reggie had gone. All they had was Mattingly. And then we had Straw, and then in 85, that was an amazing season. If Straw doesn't break his thumb, or sprained his thumb or whatever it was, I think we win because Gooden was so dominant. Like, we've never seen it. They keep talking about that kid in Pittsburgh, and they show his numbers, and his numbers are nowhere near what Doc's numbers were. And, so then we started, I think in 85, we actually went to, we followed the team. We went to Chicago for 3 games. And it was great because it was a 4-game series. We missed the first game, which they lost. Then the second game, Hojo hit a home run, I think, to win the game in extra innings. And then we saw Strawberry hit 3 home runs at Wrigley, and that was amazing. But then we lost to the Cardinals. Cardinals had a good team. And then obviously in 86, and we went to a lot of games in 86 as well. We followed the team to Montreal. I was also a huge Carter fan.
Okay.
When I was a Yankees fan, I still liked the Cardinals too. So, when I was 7 years old, I still like Carter. So it was like I had an Expo hat. So there's pictures of me with an Expo hat in like 1981. And, the most amazing thing was, back then there was no internet. So, and news reports would do teasers. So in 85, I remember going home and like my dad's watching the news or right before the news, and it said the Mets make a blockbuster trade. What did I do? I ran to the phone and called 976-1313. That's how you
Wow.
got your sports news. That was sports phone. Mets make a blockbuster deal. They get Gary Carter. And I yelled, the Mets got Carter. The Mets got Carter. And I got goosebumps now thinking about it. And, I was at the, his first, the opening game when he hit the home run, which was great in 85. And then obviously in 86, that was just a whirlwind. I was there, or we were there, me and my dad took me all the time. We would listen to, Do Up on the way there at CBS 101. And we'd get there and we'd park underneath. We parked by the marina. And I didn't even know there was a marina there because it was always night out. We'd park by the marina underneath the overpass, which was free. And now they charge like $50.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Now they
right.
charge, I think,
We
parking
would park
prices,
there
right?
just because the traffic would be better to get out of the game, and
Sure.
also was free. My dad would bring 3 beers into the game. I would smuggle them in a case and in a binocular case, and we would we saw a bunch of games. We saw when they clinched. We ran on the field. I did bring home a piece of grass. I did not rip it up. I just pulled it from the somebody had ripped it up. I tried planting it. It did not grow. Let's see. And then we were there at we were there when Carter won the game and with that base hit against the Astros. And then for the World Series, we were there game 1, which was the Tuffle through the legs game. Glenn Close with a bad rendition of Star Spangled Banner. And then we went to Boston for game 5. They lost that game. And then we were there for 6 and 7.
That's
And,
that's awesome.
and to be honest with you, it's just like that was such a whirlwind of 4 or 5 years of being a fan and just being, when you're like 10 and 15 years old, it's like your whole life.
Yeah, the
And
superhero to us at that point.
yeah, and the players weren't as. It's weird because they were and they weren't as accessible because there was no social media, so you didn't, And I was a huge Dykstra fan. I was the first kid with a Dykstra jersey. I remember somebody coming up to me at Shea and said, Bob Baylor used to wear that number. He's a lot better than Dykstra. Who does that? Bob Baylor? Like, who does that? So, and then at the end of the 85 season, I actually bought, and I'll just show it to you guys. Hang on one second.
I wish I had those seats.
I always regret. I remember when they first started selling the seats, like after Shea closed,
Yeah.
a whole set of like all of the colors was going for like a reasonable price. You can't touch them now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, here's the thing. I bought those seats when I was so depressed. I had tickets for game 7 for the NLCS last year. And I had paid $1,000 for them. Obviously I got the money back and then I bought those. That was what I was.
Okay.
That's
So
a nice
I
little
was at a-
compensation.
I was at a sporting card store and there was and I would always go whenever Dykstra would do an event. And I saw that Dykstra was selling his rookie mitt and he was selling it for 300 or 250 or something, not much. And this is a mitt that he used every day, and my
That's
dad
pretty
said,
cool.
all right, I'll flip you for it. If it's heads, I'll give it to you for 250. If it's tails, it's 150. We won. So I got his rookie mitt. This is it. For 250, and then I got these cleats. I think were 25, and he had
Wow.
3 pairs of cleats, and they still have the Shea dirt on the bottom of it and everything. And
That's
I
super
actually, this
cool.
is how much of a geek I was. I had the Len Dykstra Hall of Fame that I had in my house. It actually has directions to my house. I don't live there anymore. So. Yeah. So I was a huge Dykstra fan, and after Game 6, let me tell you, so lots of people talk about Game 6. Since obviously it's the biggest moment in Mets history, I think. It is, everybody focuses on Buckner. For me, that was 4 guys that were refusing to go down,
Absolutely.
refusing to go quiet in that night, particularly Mookie. When you look at that Mookie at bat, and was that 12 pitches or something crazy
Yeah, it was
like
something
that?
like that.
And that means that's It means there's 9 or 8 pitches or 7 pitches that if he's this much off, the game is over. And you mentioned the Chavez catch. The one difference between Mookie and Beltran, Mookie was like, I was not going to let him call the third strike. I was going to
Yeah,
say anything. And he was always a free swinger. And I think very rarely did he ever get the third strike called on him. And he was just like not going to let them do it. And those were guys that stretched out an amazing rally. It's unfortunate that it caused really the pain and the demise of a guy that was really a true warrior, this guy Buckner. So, but after that and that amazing, after the wild pitch, there was no way we were losing that game.
no way.
None. There was no way we were losing game 7. Game 7, we were losing by 3 runs in the 6th inning.
Yep.
And let me tell you something. There was nobody was like tense in that ballpark. It was just like, oh, we're going to do this.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, exactly. And after you go through that and such an amazing, it was hard to go back to fandom again the next year.
Yeah.
And then they just started dismantling the team too. And then I went off to college and everything. So it was, and then they had those teams in the 90s, which were awful. Luckily I missed a lot of that because went to Boston University, then I went to University of Kansas for I studied religious studies there. And then I came back because my dad was having health issues, and I started painting houses. And when I was painting houses, we started going to games again. And he got a little bit better, but eventually he passed in '98. But while I was painting houses, I started a zine about hockey fights, and that's how I got
Okay.
to be a journalist because the Village Voice saw it, and the Village Voice said, "You want to write something for our first issue on Long Island?" And I said, "Yeah." And then 13 issues later, I had the cover story, which was for the first interleague game, which was in '97.
Oh, that's amazing. That was Bobby Jones, right?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
first. Yeah. So then, and my first game I ever covered. So then I started covering games. My father passed away. Um, we watched. Last thing we did was we watched a game in the hospital together, and I covered. I wasn't a beat writer. I was a feature writer. I covered it. The first game I ever covered, my editor said, I wanted you to do a 50 things you don't know about Benayak Bayani. So I'm I'm interviewing him there, and then he gets hurt. I don't know if you remember this, but he hit a ball off of the batting cage. There used to be a batting cage. He hit a ball off the batting cage and hit him in the eye. And Bobby Valentine got into a fight with one of the Newsday reporters. And then there's a catcher's interference call. He gets thrown out of the game, and he comes back with a mustache. That was
Yeah.
my very first day. And
Wow.
then there was a lot of other things at that game too. Bobby Bonilla, he tried to get Bobby Bonilla to pinch hit, and Bobby Bonilla wouldn't pinch hit. He said no.
Really?
So all this stuff happened in that game. And when I saw Bobby this winter, I said, Bobby, do you remember all this stuff? He's like, no. And I said, this happened. He was like, that all happened in the same night. I was like, yeah. And Bobby's one of the great raconteurs of baseball, one of the last ones. And he's like, oh, send me that article. And unfortunately, the article had being front seat to Bobby V's meltdown or something, which I was like, I didn't write the headline. But yeah, no, it was, that got me obviously back into it. And then, a lot of the heartache that happened with, I just look at, Benitez blowing in the Subway Series, and, obviously Beltran not swinging. And I don't know, I blame Darnaud not framing pitches right for 15. That's what I did. Yeah. And then last year, there was no one to blame. We were punching above our weight, and just
Yeah.
that Dodger team. It was just like a guy. And then it was another, it was that lineup was just killer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Edman was the one that beat us.
Yeah. It's always that one guy with the Mets that you never expect. You expect it from Ohtani and Freeman and Betts, and then here comes Tommy Edman, or in '06, here comes the David Eckstein, and it's not Pujols and Edmonds. But no, I think, one of the cool things you mentioned was something I always remember about Shea Stadium was when my father took me and my brother, and you hit that one spot on the BQE and you could finally see the neon lights outside. That was the moment where me and my brother were just like, my God, we're here again. That'll never be recreated. And that's something that I'll always love about that stadium.
Yeah. Well, where were you coming from? Were you coming from Queens?
Staten Island.
You were coming from, okay. Oh, okay. So for me, it was always the New York Pavilion.
Okay.
for the World's Fair. So when I saw that, that was like, oh, we're here,
Right.
Yep.
and so because we would always come in. Sometimes we would come up the Whitestone, and then you'd see
Around
you
the other way.
come the northern way. But it was that was always the thing. So seeing that, yeah. And actually, I'm doing a fitted hat, working with Ren Arts, and the color scheme is going to be that. It's going to be the New York Pavilion, a
We
Mets
got to
hat.
look for that, Lou.
Yeah,
100%.
that'll
Yeah.
come out. I don't know. I might not do it this year. Probably be for next year. But yeah.
Okay.
One thing you mentioned when you were talking about the '86 team, you said that like you guys knew that you had that series. Like nobody was stopping the '86 Mets, especially after the comeback. That's how I wanted to feel last year. Getting in Atlanta, running through Philly, going to Milwaukee. I was like, this is our year. Like nobody's stopping of this. Like Lindor's on fire, he's carrying the team, and then it just came crashing down real quick. But
Yeah.
I had that feeling. I just hope we have to get there. We just have
It
to get
it
through.
it felt like it was meant to be.
Right,
The reason why I want them to win so much with Pete is
right.
because of that home run, because that home run is the closest I've ever come to game 6. That
Okay.
Now,
feeling.
now you brought that up. There's a moment in time that most Mets fans will remember, and I remember it because I think Lou sent it to me or I sent it to him, however it went, and I said, "Bro, watch the guy in the orange jersey," and the popcorn went up. So, what were you feeling? That for everybody out there watching or listening, this is Billy that threw the popcorn.
Yeah. So this was the first ever watch party that they had ever done. And I had gotten tickets way up front. I was right near the Queen's crew, right near, Mr. and Mrs. Met were over there. And the food was cheap. And also I think they were selling them the playoff gear for 50% off.
Wow.
So in the 8th inning, or the 7th inning, I bought the popcorn in the helmet. And I was like, and it was stale, it was not good, and I was gonna throw it away. And I was like, maybe something's gonna happen. I don't know. So I held it. Remember, Pete, the attitude on Pete at the end there in that stadium was like people were down on him.
Mhm.
Saw a lot of people, and this was just a generational thing. When they would post the video, they were putting the Moneyball sounds behind it, that song. This was the natural, though. This was, the sports writer up in the booth drawing him being a goat, because he was going to be, and when I say goat, I mean the way it used to be, which is he was going to be the loser of the series. He was
Yep.
not going to come back, and he steps up to the plate and hits this home run that is just an amazing, like you said, moment in time. I think it's probably even though it didn't lead to a world championship, it's in the top 10, definitely, in Mets moments. And
Absolutely.
it just was, and it's also something that has never happened before. A team has never come from behind in the 9th inning or above in a winner take all series. That's the stuff that you play in your backyard. And this literally happened there. And then, so when it happened, I threw up the popcorn. I'm jumping around like a maniac. And then, I think we tacked on another run. And
Mhm.
then that it was so weird because we couldn't really figure out what happened, because remember, there was one out, they got a man on, and then there was a double play, and it was over. Like the game
Yes.
was over right then. And we were all like, what the hell just happened? I can't believe this just happens. I'm hugging the Queen's crew and everything, and Mr. and Mrs. Mitten. It was just what a great moment. And it was also great too because it was all the real fans in the seats,
Yeah.
because rich people don't go to watch parties. And it was also, there was no other fans of other teams there.
Right.
So even though it wasn't full, it felt like it was entirely a Mets crowd. And that was another thing that made it amazing as well.
We have to do that. The next time they have it, Vin, we have to go.
Absolutely.
We have to go. We'll take the ride out. We'll go. See, you mentioned the natural. You mentioned Moneyball. I wanted to play Who Let the Dogs Out, bring it back to 2000, 2001, because that was our jam back when Piazza was hitting home run.
That was it. Well, remember the year before that, it was Mr. Mojo Rising.
Right.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I have like 2 or 3 crews that I hang with, and one crew is called the Believers, and one crew is like most of the City Boys guys. And
Okay.
with the Believers, we're very superstitious and everything, and it's like I was trying to come up with a logo for us, And it's like the superstitions come from, obviously, we had the black cat. I would throw in the parachute guy in '86.
Yes.
I would throw in the Cespedes, the
Parakeet,
little
The
bird,
parakeet.
the
the parakeet,
parakeet.
yeah.
Then Mr. Mojo Horizon, the dogs for Who Let the Dogs Out, obviously Grimace last year, and OMG. And, we were all looking for something this year, and nothing has really come about. The only thing that's natural that's come about has been the leg kick,
Yes.
which was from Pete because Pete was screwing up those throws and hurting our pitcher and potentially ruining our season.
I actually
And
didn't know that that's where it came from.
he did a good throw to first, and he did a kick, and then they all started doing it, and that's a Michael Jackson kick. So I was talking to the woman that runs the Queens Girl. I was like, "You guys got to do a Michael Jackson thing here." It's like, how do you not have the kick going on? It's like, that might be a good idea to do.
That's hysterical. Vin, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, so we had big news today. Moving like to the team now. We've seen McLean come up and be like almost otherworldly. Tong came up, looked good in his debut, and now Sproat is finally up. And I'm really excited. And in a way, I don't know how to really phrase this. I'm kind of upset because of what it means for Sanga and Manaya and the stock we put in them coming in. But we saw Generation K. We saw the guys in 15 kind of burst onto the scene, 13, 14, 15 that time. What's your thought on these kids coming up now and what they potentially are bringing and could bring in the future?
Now, which one was Generation K?
That was Paul Wilson,
That's
Pulsifer,
right,
and Isringhausen
and Isringhausen. That was Generation K, and then the other ones were the Young Guns. Was that what they were
with
calling them?
the Harvey, DeGrom, that was
Harvey
supposed to
DeGrom
be
and
the best rotation
Syndergaard.
ever.
Syndergaard, yeah. And then
Yes.
obviously before that, we had there was nobody, even though probably our best rotation ever was '86. They never had a name because they didn't come all up together. But I would say probably Seaver and Kuzman and
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
Nolan. Yeah.
yeah, and Nolan was there too, even though he couldn't hit the strike zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like McLean was just lights out,
It's
and
unbelievable.
if you haven't already heard it, I'm sure you guys have, but the Detroit play-by-play guys and what they were saying about him was great. They were just like, "What was that?" They were like, "That's disgusting." It's like exactly what you want to hear. And, Tong is just that boyish energy, that enthusiasm is going to be great, I think, in a clubhouse full of multimillionaires who don't have to, care. I think that's excellent as well. And I think that's going to rub off on a lot of people. Um, I think having those three guys, I mean, listen, we know Manaya has foreign entities in his elbow. That
Mhm.
Yeah.
can't feel good.
No.
And Senga, was never quite right. He did have a couple good starts, but then when he got the injury, he hasn't been right since. And you're hoping Peterson gets back to the way he was before. But we didn't come in with a solid rotation. We came in kind of, crossing our fingers. We thought we were going to be way more of an offensive team. But remember, we also thought Vientos was going to be the same
Right.
thing he was last year. And that
Right.
really hampered this team. I think this team is gonna win and die with Vientos.
Mhm.
Or live or die with Vientos. So, I think this lineup is great. We've been scoring all these runs with Lindor not really necessarily hitting a lot in running scorer position, but when you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I love seeing McNeil coming up at 5 or 6 because he's a professional hitter. He knows what he's doing. And then you've got obviously Vientos. I still love Beatty. I think Beatty is great. He's good defensively, and then it sucks that Taylor is down because I really do like Taylor. I think Taylor has saved probably 2 or 3 games for us. I think he's won 2 or 3 games with his defense. And look at our catcher situation.
Yeah.
I mean, Alvey was starting to hit, and Torrens is now that he's realizing he can go opposite field, he's going to hit too. So this is a damn good lineup. So it's just a matter of the pitching because there's nothing worse than being in a game and getting a lead and then having the
Which
I
happened a
think
lot
that
early on.
sorry, Vin.
No, you're good.
One thing that we talk about all the time is, we're starting to see with Stearns over the last couple of off seasons that it seems like he's not going to invest big money into the starting pitching market because of the trends that we're seeing around the league in terms of injuries.
Mhm.
So we see that he's looking for these short-term deals at maybe a little bit of a higher AAV for somebody who might not be that top-tier pitcher. But one thing that I, started to think about was what's going to happen when the collective bargaining agreement starts to have their conversations, and is there going to be a lockout, and what's going to happen after the lockout. And the one thing that I give Stearns a ton of credit for is that he's had the ability to hold on to these prospects and keep them in
Yeah.
our farm system, because I think he's playing the long game, and he knows that if I'm not saying that there is going to be, but if there is a salary cap long term, you're going to need young, controllable players. And I think he sees the arms that we have, and he wanted to hold those guys, and he wasn't going to go out and make a huge trade or a huge acquisition for the starting rotation, knowing that something's coming up, either with the labor lockout or beyond that a salary cap. So very excited about these three young kids. Me and Vinny and one of the other guys that always jumps on the podcast with us, our friend James, we're at Tong's first start. Just the energy that these young kids are bringing to the stadium. Sproat should have been up the same week that those guys were up. So I know we're super excited about these three guys. Now, Vin, I know you mentioned earlier, and maybe you guys can help me out a little bit. Is he going to be able to pitch in the playoffs, or we missed the deadline on that?
So I believe Andy Martino actually put out a tweet today. It said, when the Mets call up Sproat, he will be eligible for the postseason because he was in the organization by the end of August. So I don't know if there was maybe a roster move that wasn't announced or if there was like the 40-man roster, but
Okay,
Andy Martino said he's going to be available. So
that's good. So
Yeah, and there was also something if he's replacing somebody that is injured too. I think that's
okay,
also another thing.
okay,
So I think he should be
good to
eligible.
go.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing because we definitely need him.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
we're
it's
gonna need,
real, it's
and
really
now it's a
exciting.
matter of, I'm watching these other games now, and I never like scoreboard watching until September hits. So September hits, I was like, all right, I'll start watching scoreboard now. And with MLB Network, you can watch the actual games, and
Mhm.
watching, and yesterday everybody lost. Except for the
Yeah,
Giants, who are now coming up now, but it's like everybody
they're
lost.
hot.
So
Yeah.
you could say it's a missed opportunity, or you could also say, okay, that saved us a little bit. So all those teams lost. We've got the we got a day off today. I don't know when this comes out, but yeah, we've got a situation now where if we don't get the first wild card or the division, we're going to be playing away,
Hmm.
and that away is brutal
Hmm.
Yeah,
in the wild card. 3 games away. There's nothing else like it in sports,
Yeah.
do something like that. So, obviously we won it last year. It's doable, but it's a tough road to climb. You also want to rest your arms too, but there's also something to be said for the momentum that you have going in, and whether the momentum can kill you. It's going to be really tough to skip the wild card game, to be one of the top 2 teams in the league. Is it with the
right.
top 2? Wait, what would it be? Yeah, top 2. Yeah. So, and we'd do it if we were in the American League because the American League is garbage this year. But it's insane. Like you look at those teams, like really, like we just came in and almost swept the Tigers, not for putting in hell's balls in there. So, it's just I don't understand why. It just sometimes this happens where the one league is just so much better than the other, which I kind of like just because it maintains the integrity of the leagues, which are so watered down now. The differences between the two, and now it's just barely. It really doesn't mean anything anymore.
And it's funny you say that because I feel like obviously we're in New York. Obviously, we're always with the Yankees head to head, whatever it is. And that's always my big argument with the Yankee fans. It's like, but look at the AL compared to the NL, and
Mhm.
we're so much better. But and speaking of the Yankees, there's the elephant in the room with the Mets and Yankees now with Juan Soto, and I just want I want your opinion on him because I know I'm confident in saying that if this guy stays healthy and gives us 9 or 10 of the 15 years in that contract, I think he's going to go down, obviously not homegrown, but as the best position player to ever put on a Mets uniform when it's going to be the numbers and everything. And the turnaround that he's made this year with early in the year where he couldn't buy a big hit. Now he's on pace to do something that I don't know if you saw the numbers, hasn't been done this century
Yeah.
since Bonds and Bagwell. So what's your opinion on him and the turnaround that he's made, given where he came from, right across town?
Yeah. I've never seen Yankee fans hate Met fans like this. And it started in the beginning of the year, and when we were going through our troubles, they were going through troubles too. So everybody was very quiet in terms of that stuff. But now that it's happening, listen, they still have Judge, but anytime you're a little kid brother bests you at something, it's gonna sting. I was never a big Yankee hater until they tore the stadium down.
Mhm.
And I really think that I'm a big baseball fan of baseball history. The one thing that you can't buy is history. And if you're a baseball player and you're standing on the same spot where Ruth and DiMaggio and Mantle and Garrick and even Jeter, those guys stood, that means something. There's something there. There's a mystique there.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And they fucking tore it down and moved it across the street. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, I hope they never win a game again. I know I win a World Series again. I know they won one series in there, but that was before they tore it down. So they tore it down. They have not won since they actually tore down that stadium, and I hope they never
I
win it.
I never thought of it like that. Yeah,
Yep.
it's true.
Yeah. So, with Soto, I think, yeah, he's at first we were calling him a generational walker.
Yeah.
He's somebody I've never seen anything like it before. I think the big thing with him is that he's ahead in counts. He was always behind in counts at the beginning. And remember, he was doing bad when Pete was on fire. So people wanted to pitch to him and not
Yeah.
pitch to Pete. And now, yeah, it's clicking. And like he said, when there's runners on base, we're going bananas, which could become another. I'm sure there's some bullshit AI t-shirt with that now.
That's your thing. That's your thing, Billy. That's your
Well, that's my thing. Yeah.
2025, the
Well, I
bananas.
got that Mets Junior pin, which he actually did. He did the
Oh,
that was
wow.
pretty. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah. Mets Junior rocked that. And I made popcorn pins actually that go up where the popcorn comes up and down, but I have no idea where they are. I've given them out to a bunch of people, but the pins are so easy to make now, even though Trump made it a little bit harder with the tariffs. But yeah, I mean, he's not a guy that I love. It's just like he's not a guy that I would ever gravitate towards as my favorite player. He's not really a hustler. He doesn't dive for balls. He doesn't do those things, but he's so sort of nonchalant about it. Like the homer he robbed was the most nonchalant robbing homer, nonchalant that you've ever seen. He was just like, yeah, 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 that's it. And it's just you love seeing it and love knowing that this guy is going to be with us. I mean, he could opt out, after 5 years, but we better have gotten a World Series by that time.
Right.
Because, and I think really that Stearns has a board, I bet, in his office that has what the team's going to look like in
Mhm.
27, 28, and 29. And
Absolutely. I believe that.
it's
100%.
got Vientos and Beatty. And, I think he still has Lindor in there, but he knows Lindor is going to be more of a leader and maybe not even play every day and then he's got obviously Soto as the linchpin and then he's got these pitchers and that's where he's got an Alvy too and he sees that as the core and he's like I think with this year he's just like he said something at the trade deadline which is like well I mean my biggest thing is making the playoffs and I was like he doesn't think we're going to win this year
Right.
so that was kind of telling for me. I mean, he's not going to root against us. Just if we win, we win. But he's not. This team is not. I don't think built to beat the Dodgers yet. And the Dodgers are the team. If we beat the Dodgers last year, we roll over the Yankees.
I believe that.
And like you were saying, what an amazing. I mean, imagine beating Atlanta to get in, then going through the Phillies, the Dodgers, and the Yankees, which are like
Oh,
our biggest. Those are our biggest rivals. Those are our four biggest rivals.
Move the
That would have
Mets
been
to
a dream
spot,
season.
I wouldn't have cared. That would have been it.
That would have been it.
Yeah.
We could all have stopped that and started watching football and
Literally.
Jets. Yeah.
So Vinny and I always ask our guests that we have on. You mentioned that Soto wouldn't be somebody who you gravitate towards as your favorite player, but we ask our guests all the time. Previously, now, future teams. Who are your top favorite Mets that you've watched growing up to now?
Okay. Favorite Mets growing up was Dykstra and Carter. I didn't appreciate the pitchers as much as I should. Pitching always made me nervous just because it was like we couldn't get any runs, but we could give runs away. I didn't realize my dad kept saying, like, this kid's 19 years old with good. And I was like, 19 felt like 50 back then, when you're a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old kid. And then probably I would say now I love Torrens. I've loved Torrens since I just love the way he hustles. And I think Lindor is I love Lindor. I love the style that he has and the flash, and I love that he signs for the kids. He's always there signing. And this guy doesn't need to do that, but he's always doing that. So And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So I think Lindor really is one of my faves.
Would you name him the captain?
I think so. I mean, after Soto blew that up,
Yeah, I was gonna say
which
that.
he needs to grow up. That's just a dumb thing to say. It's like we were in a winning streak when that was happening too. So it's like, dude, you don't say that.
Mhm.
It's just not a thing to say. You could say he's a leader on the team, he's one of the leaders or something like that. You could say even the leader, but saying captain when you definitely heard all the stuff about people, talking about
Wanting him to have it.
that was just a dumb thing to say. The guy, I'm sure the guy has had media training before. Somebody needs to pull him aside and say, "You don't do that. There's nothing can help. That can only hurt the team." Yeah.
Right.
And when you had mentioned you think Stearns has that board with the 27, 28 team on it. The guy you left out, and Lou knows this. I'm kind of okay at this point if he left. Doesn't mean I don't love him. Was Alonso. I don't think Stearns
Yeah. No, he's
is a
not in the
Stearns
plans.
guy.
He's just not, guys. And I want
Well,
him to be because I want him to be there because he's homegrown.
Yes.
He's going to be his number will be retired, you know, and he hit that home run, and I want that home run to carry over. Listen, and the part of me, the way I think of it is, all right, if he leaves, that home run still means something. I don't think Soto comes over here without that home because we kept going. We went into Philly, we went into Dodgers, and he was seeing how much fun was going on over here, and he was like,
mhm,
"That's fun."
mhm.
Yeah. You mentioned something about, oh, how I always, what to say to Yankee fans. The biggest thing is to say, we have way more fun. Our
Yeah.
stadium is more fun. The team is always more fun. The fans are more fun. It's just fun. You can have your championships. You can have all that. I'd rather have fun. I'd
Mm.
rather have great friends and a great atmosphere and great, times. And then every 15 years, we have a magical moment that
Yep.
blows away all of your magical moments. And
And
that's
it
the way I see it.
I just wanna tell, like, the one story, Lou, because you were there for it. You mentioned the atmosphere and all that, and me and Lou have a buddy at work who completely non-biased, is not into baseball. He went to a Yankee game this year, actually, and then not even a week later, me and Lou had brought him to Citi Field, and he was like a kid in a candy store. Before the first pitch was even thrown, with the light shows, with the sounds and everything, he was
Uh-huh.
like, "This is amazing. I wanna come back."
Yeah. Yeah, listen, it
And it's great.
it says a lot when, their victory song is Frank Sinatra, our victory song is Ace Frehley, It's like, that says that's all you have to say there, so, I think, just the stadiums I did the doubleheader last week. So I did the day game at Yankee, then I went over to the night game. Almost all, they had a no-hitter going through, 5.5. It's just such a stadium where and even if, like, yeah, everybody says it feels like a mausoleum, it feels like a warehouse when you walk in, and I'm like, "Okay, fine. That's where you walk in, they made that space in there, but then when you go into the actual stadium area, there's no outdoor spaces for the fans to be."
Nothing.
We have 2 no, wait, we have 4 really,
Yeah.
because we have the Coke corner, we've got behind we got Shea Bridge and behind the scoreboard, and then we've got behind home plate, and then we've got around where the World's Fair is. That
Yes.
place. You know what I mean, that's 4 places where you can be outside. There's no place like that there. They've hidden the monuments
Mhm.
where you can't see them anymore. They've hidden all of theirs. It's just it's a nice, and even Yankee fans will say it too. It's just, and then they have a giant freaking banner for the boss, George Steinbrenner. It's like, give me a freaking break. Come on.
And I think, with all that said, like, that's a huge testament to the type of people the Cohens are
Mhm.
Yeah.
and the atmosphere that they've built at Citi Field. And, you know, I remember when they changed even just down to the screens
Oh
and the
my god.
scoreboard and the light shows, and it's such an electric atmosphere now that I love it.
Well, putting the screens when you walk into the rotunda, so you're
Yes.
seeing Mets shit and
Mhm.
not just Dodger stuff. That was
Yep.
huge. And that was just, going out and getting 42-inch screens from Best Buy. You doing that, that was just a good testament. And then, I mean, the only thing that I would complain about is that the Mets Museum is an embarrassment. That's it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't like that. Yeah.
So, but everything else that they've done, and remember, they inherited a Frankenstein of a stadium where
Yes.
a guy that was in love with the Dodgers built it and had gone around and took idea. I want the Tiger Stadium, which is actually cool. I sat there for the first time. Coke Corner used to go over the field.
Mhm.
But then they moved the fence in. But that's actually kind of a cool place to sit. And I sat there with Max, the rally pimp, which was a lot of fun. He's a great kid, by the way. Max, the rally pimp, you might think, oh, he's 25 or whatever. He knows so much baseball history. He's such a fun kid to watch with watch a game with. He knows every reference that I'm talking about. He's also a big fan of the history of comedy as a comedian. So we talk a lot about comedy and things like that when we go to games together. And then I go to games with J Mac, who made the guy that made the
Yes.
OMG sign, and he just like loves sitting at the front and just like messing with the pitch clock, like counting one, counting the pitch clock early. He loves doing that. He thinks that when Marte did the walk off, he takes credit for that. That we did the we did the mark by us chanting the pitch clock on that. So. And really, at the end of the day, it really is about the fans, the friends that you have at these games, and going to games, and you're really, you're talking about just stuff and talking about life a little bit and this and that, and then you're just waiting for these amazing moments to happen, and then they happen.
Vinny and I, when we were at Tong's first outing, through the podcast, through our pages on Instagram, we're really starting to meet a lot of great people, both at the stadium and on social media. And like you said, going to the game and just meeting all of these followers and supporters in person and just hanging out and having a good time and laughing and just enjoying Citi Field has been really fun. And if we happen to connect one day at Citi Field, we'd love to meet you in person and hang out and catch the game and just have a good time.
I actually I was at Tong's game too. Me and Jay were actually sitting right on the dugout.
Oh, nice.
Sitting. We didn't necessarily have tickets, but you know what I mean. And I had I never brought a sign to a game, and I brought it to the Dodger game, and it said, "We get back up." And it's very much about recovery, because I am in recovery, but it's also it was about the Mets too. And they put me on this, I was holding it up and they put me on, and it was like, I started bringing signs, and I bring signs that are kind of inspiration for somebody that might need it, So I think I was on with Keep Going last game that I was at, but I brought a sign to like a new beginning, a new day is dawning, I think I said. And I brought it, but the thing is like, I didn't know he was going to start, so I was like, I made it really quick. It wasn't done. I usually make them in cardboard, but this one was like oak tag. And of course, I'm sitting right in the front, and JT, the Mets announcer, the hype guy, he's like, "Can I grab it? Can I go?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, I was like praying that it didn't fall apart. And it also had, because I was going to Oasis that week, it had a Roll With It, which is an Oasis song, on the back of it. And then he turned it around and he's going like that, which is kind of funny because he's like promoting sort of an Oasis song. Something that like, I saw this shirt, which is insane, and I had to buy it. There's no way that anybody else bought this except for me. This is an Oasis Mets shirt. So it says,
I've never seen that. Yeah.
And it says, it says Mets right here. You know what I mean?
And on the back,
it's so like, like that. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Who buys that? Who would buy this except for me? And I saw it because obviously the algorithm gives it. The algorithm knew I was at Oasis in London. I go to Mets games, and they're just like, they hit me, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna give you $40. Maybe it'll show up, maybe it won't. But I had to roll the dice and see if it shows up. But it's been a fun season. A lot of great friends, a lot of new friends, and a lot of good giveaways too. I think we had the second best giveaway. The White Sox had great giveaways this year, and they had a replica stadium with the AM/FM radio in it.
Oh wow,
that's cool.
That's really cool.
I don't know if you noticed something. I'm going to give you a little. I'm going to give you two scoops here. All right, one of them is this. So now this is the Soto one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you see, it's his batting stance, right? In the original drawing, so the concept art that they were showing us up until they had this to put on the schedule, they had him doing the shuffle. So what changed? Did he say, I don't want me doing the shuffle, I want me doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's done the shuffle like only maybe 3 or 4 times this year.
And if you look at that bobblehead, that's his 2-strike batting stance. Because they talk about it all the time, how his foot is turned.
This is the first strike, actually. This is before 2 strikes, because he's got, you know what? It's a combination of the two, because it should be turned in this way, but it is up in the air. See that? So it should be turned in this way. So it's a mess, but he is kind of on his toes a little bit. Yeah. But he's been hitting good with 2 strikes though. So
I love that he shuffled at the Little League Classic.
that was great.
Yeah,
Because
that was
all the
great.
kids were
All
calling
the
for
kids
it,
were yelling for it, and he
and
did.
he gave them. Yeah, that was really cool. That was awesome.
The second thing is this, and I am making this a bit of a crusade, is that as a big fan of the history and of Shea, and thinking that Shea is kind of hallowed ground, the footprint of the bases at Shea, very important. Now, when they came out with the architectural renderings of the casino and the hotel, I actually liked the drawing to the casino. I liked what they did. It looks like a very much like a 1950s or 60s municipal building. But I was looking at it and going, "Where's the? Oh no, they were like." And I went to an Amazing Day. They're like, "No, the thing is there. The second base is where the bandstand is, and there's a bandstand is up against the hotel, and the bandstand is there at second base because that's where the Beatles played." I said, "Okay, well,
Okay.
if the bandstand's right there and the hotel's right here, and we know Citi Field is right here, that means first base is right here. It's inside the stadium." They're like, "No, it's not." And I was like, "Yeah, it is." And I've done mock-ups of whatever they've showed us. It's inside the stadium. There's no reason for it to be inside. I'm sorry, inside the hotel or the casino. I don't want home plate to be inside the casino. I want it to be outside.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that I try to make a little noise on that, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
If it even gets
That would
done.
be really cool. I mean, if we get that change as a fan base, that would be a big win. That would be
It's just-
awesome.
see, they've said they're maintaining it, and I don't want you want when you think somebody's maintaining it, you think, okay, I'm going to be able to stand at home plate. I'm going to see this, this, and this. Don't
Right.
be like the Yankees did, where they literally have home
Yeah.
plate that is the second base now of that field. There's no marker for it or anything, and
Well,
and,
well,
and
well, like,
that's a hell of a lot more historic than what we did at Shea. I mean, I'll be honest.
like you said earlier, don't tear down history. Don't get rid of history.
No,
And
no, or else
those 4 bases are our franchise. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I,
and then you
I
see
agree
the
with
things
you.
that they've done in like Atlanta. They still have the fence
Mhm.
up where the ball went over for Hank Aaron. It's just like those sort of things mean a lot to people, and I think and he's a fan too, so hopefully he'll see that. But
And it's the stories of it too, because I remember when I first went to Citi Field with my brothers and my dad, and it was like growing up for me, Mike Piazza was larger than life. He was my Superman. And when I got to walk through the parking lot and stand behind home plate, and I remember saying to my dad, I was like, but this is where Mike Piazza caught so many games, and I'm standing on the ground that my childhood hero played it, and he hit here, he caught here, and I hope, like you said, I hope they don't change that, because the day comes that I have kids or Lou has kids, I wanna be able to bring them there and say, "This is where this happened or this moment," and it's just really cool to have that right now.
yeah, and you don't have to wait until they're 18, then they can get into a casino.
Right.
We're just coming up around the 50-minute mark. So for all of our guests that come on, we want to give you a minute or two just to, if you want to plug anything you have going on, if you want to shout anybody out, you're more than welcome to.
Okay.
We wanted to thank you so much for coming on. We know you have a schedule just like we all do, but thank you so much for your time and always showing our page love. You interact with Vinny all the time on the page, so thank you so much for everything. And the floor is yours. Whatever you would like to plug at this moment.
Okay. Yeah. No, you could. I got 2 books out there if you want to read them. Chase Darkness with Me. It's about solving murders with social media. If anybody wants to learn how to solve a murder, it is a true story. And another one about serial killers and addiction. Just follow me on Instagram. That's probably the best place. I post, crime stuff and Met stuff, and a little bit of Manchester City. Yeah, that's my my team who were very similar to the Mets, and hopefully will be like the Mets too, because the Mets will be like them because they were the second class citizens. Then they got a very rich owner, and then they became a worldwide powerhouse. So hopefully that'll be the same.
Awesome. So thank you everybody so much for tuning in this episode. Once again, thank you so much to Bill. When you guys can, please hit the subscribe button down below. Vinny and I appreciate all the support. And like always, guys, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.